So, our antagonist is not satisfied with his evil scheme of genocide. He wants to eliminate the man, Mordecai, who ignited his rage and work of revenge against the Jews. And so Haman, with the help of his friends, has come up with a plan to impale Mordecai upon a pole. Meanwhile, in the middle of the night, just around the corner in the citadel, King Xerxes can't get to sleep. And so he orders the royal annals, the record of his reign, to be read to him. As he listens to an account of his achievements, he's reminded of an assassination attempt that was stopped years earlier. Chapter 6, verses 1 to 3. That night the king could not sleep, so he ordered the book of the Chronicles, the record of his reign, to be brought in and read to him. It was found recorded there that Mordecai had exposed Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's officers who guarded the doorway, who had conspired to assassinate King Xerxes. What honor and recognition has Mordecai received for this? The king asked. Nothing has been done for him, his attendants answered. By divine coincidence, after Queen Esther's first banquet, King Xerxes can't sleep, and Haman can't help himself. Both men have been up most of the night. One has been reminded of his history, the other's trying to control its outcome. In the middle of the night, Haman has somehow managed to set up a 75-foot pole as part of his evil scheme. But now he must ask the king's permission. King Xerxes, on the other hand, now knows that something must be done to honor the man who saved his life. And so our theatrical story, this comedy of errors, now starts to come together in a scene of divine irony. Verses 4 through 9. The king asked, "Who is in the court?" Now Haman had just entered the outer court of the palace to speak to the king about impaling Mordecai on the pole. The attendants answered, "Haman is standing in the court." "Bring him in," the king ordered. When Haman entered, the king asked him, "What should be done for the man the king delights to honor?" Now Haman thought to himself, "Who is there that the king would rather honor than me?" So he answered the king, "For the man the king delights to honor, let them bring a royal robe the king has worn, and a horse the king has ridden, one with a royal crest placed on its head. Then let the robe and horse be entrusted to one of the king's most noble princes. Let them robe the man the king delights to honor, and lead him on the horse through the city streets, proclaiming before him, 'This is what is done for the man the king delights to honor.'" I mean, you can almost hear the egotistical excitement in Haman's voice. It's almost as if he's salivating with self-righteous eagerness, too giddy to suggest or confess his secret dreams and fantasies to the king. And I'm sure at this point, Haman has forgotten about the 75-foot pole, why he had even come to the king's court so early in the morning. But all of this serves as the ultimate sucker punch, the greatest providential punchline of all time, when in response to Haman's suggestions, the king replies, "Excellent," the king said to Haman. "Quick, take the robes and my horse, and do just as you have said for Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the gate of the palace." Say what? I mean, this is just the best. This is hilarious. This is great storytelling. Because then with the very next verse, we flash forward to later that day when Haman is leading Mordecai through the streets of Susa, proclaiming to the public, and probably with very little enthusiasm, "This is what is done for the man the king delights to honor. Hip, hip, hooray." But you see, here's the thing. As entertaining as all these providential plot points and comedic twists are, I think the most important turn of events is what happens next, in the very next verse, which says, "Afterward, Mordecai returned to the palace gate, but Haman hurried home dejected and completely humiliated." Did you catch that? What did Mordecai do? Immediately after having his own parade, after finally receiving the honor he deserved for saving the king's life, Mordecai returns to the palace gate. He leaves behind the pomp and circumstance so that he can continue his peaceful protest. At the end of this scene, with his enemy having been put to shame, Mordecai doesn't boast or brag. and he doesn't take advantage of the opportunity. Instead, and in contrast to Haman's actions in the previous chapter, Mordecai simply, quietly, and humbly returns to the king's gate to continue his effort, to raise his voice with the hope that true change will come.
Next time on Esther in Isolation.
Haman has finally met his match. Our evil and vengeful antagonist has now been replaced with a distraught and desperate scoundrel. But when we come to the end of chapter 7, maybe the thing we were least expecting, and what might be the biggest surprise, is the sudden change of character in the king.